Yo, what's shaking AC?
Oh, it's just a trigger, right? It's just a little trigger to get you to do that.
It
It's like
is.
a button that you push, like,
Yeah,
rah,
it's like
and
Pavlov's dogs. The bell just rings,
yeah,
you salivate.
yeah, it just goes. Yeah. Okay. Here's what I'm gonna ask you today.
Yeah,
Sometimes you ask me a question. Sometimes I ask you a question.
wonderful.
Today, I'm gonna ask you a question. Well, I was gonna say, have you read any books lately? And then I know that you read a lot of books on business and leadership and all that. So let me ask you this: what books have you read lately, or book in particular that you could speak about?
Yeah, I mean, I don't read any fiction. It's not my thing. And with nonfiction, I don't really.
Because you're too cool for that. Just kidding.
No, I have no interest in like a romantic relationship between like a minotaur and a mermaid or whatever these fantasy novels are writing about. So I'm,
Okay.
I'm I'm a nonfiction guy, and usually I prefer to do, not like you said, nonfiction that revolves around business or leadership or economics. Not so much industries that I'm not involved in or interested in. So when you ask me, have I read any good books lately? The answer is yes. And one that I really stuck out was this one called Profit First.
Hmm.
I don't remember who the author is. I think it's a European last name, Michael something or other. Anyways, you could Google it.
Okay.
And I loved it. I think it was fantastic.
Okay. Well, let's do like book club. Do you
Oh,
want to know a fun fact? Actually, a fun fact. I've never ever been in a book club, and I've never like I've never even participated in like one meeting. So I don't really know exactly how to run one. So I will pretend we're having a book club right now. I'm going to ask you to give a like what's the premise of the book. And I haven't read this book yet, but I've heard about it, and we are actually using some of the theories in it right now at AC Inc. But that's another story for another day. So let's hear your sort of synopsis of the main premise.
yeah. So basically, the main premise here is that this dude who's done a whole bunch of research.
It sounds like I looked it up, a Polish name, Micah Lowicz,
Very possible. A lot of brilliant minds
or
originating from Poland, like Marie Curie and,
Robert Bruski,
yeah, Copernicus.
um, or maybe it could be Croatian. Anyway, okay.
Good. Anyways, so this dude does a whole bunch of research and interviews a ton of businesses and companies and all that sort of stuff. And he finds that regardless how big or how successful or unsuccessful the company is, they never seem to make a profit. Even if they're gigantic companies, everyone
Yeah,
else gets on meetings and they're like, how's business? They go to a conference event, how's business? And everyone's like, good, good, we're growing, all this sort of
everyone,
stuff.
yeah, where everyone's always focused on revenue and sales and how big
Yeah,
the company is. That means nothing if you don't have any
nothing, right?
profit.
And he says so many people will look at a P&L where it'll say profit, and then they're like, where is that money? You know?
Yeah.
Or they'll manage their finances by logging into the bank account and saying, okay, I got 5 grand
Oh,
right
we have
now.
money.
So
Yeah.
which bills can I pay with 5 grand? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Which is
Uh,
the most important? Who's going to be coming knocking on the door
yeah, and
first?
he presents a solution to that problem, a solution that most accountants, most financial planners, most finance people think is just absolutely ludicrous and incredibly irresponsible. But he pitches the fact that it works.
Okay. Do you want to go to the next level with it? Let's
Sure.
get to like a little bit more granular, and then I'd love to talk about how it can be used with franchisees.
Right. So his premise here, along with the title of the book, is profit first. So every time money comes in, whether it's daily or weekly or monthly, the first thing you do is take some aside and put it into an account that is designated only for profit. And he teaches you how to pick how much, whether it's 1% or 10% or whatever. That is the first thing. And then after that, you start taking money aside to put into like owner's compensation accounts. Then you put money into a tax account. Then you put money into an operating expense account and all that sort of stuff. But the first
What about a war?
profit.
Right. And a war chest.
Yep, that could be one of them. Yeah. But
Okay.
the
So this
premise
will be
is that
like,
number one is profit. That it has to be, right? And he even
right.
says some of these accounts have to be so protected that you set up a duplicate of this account at another bank. And when you transfer money into it on a weekly basis, then at every month end, you transfer it into the other bank, which has more restrictions for you not to be able to draw out of that. And what you find is that, I mean, for the companies who are poorly financially managed, or for the companies that seem to always be making a profit but never ever having any money, what you find is that you run out of money to pay your operating expenses, right? If you've paid your profit and your owner's salary, which is why people open businesses, then you run out of money to run your company. And that's when you start finding solutions. Maybe the problem is increased revenue, but for the most part, he finds that the problem is overindulgence in expenses, spending more than you need, and not being frugal enough to cut back and build the economics of the business model. And it forces you to readjust that.
Wouldn't you say it's not so much about overspending, but not assessing the spending? Because like it's overspending, I guess, is that, but I also mean not understanding the right amount. You know, like sometimes you don't want to just automatically cut something. Like it's like, what is it? Because I'm flashing back to when I was a franchisee, and I often tell the story about my labor costs, how when we times were good in the early, well, we were lucky because when we opened our first store, the brand, we were store number 300 in the chain, and there were people that had moved to Vancouver Island from other places in Canada, knew the brand. So things took off pretty quick. So we're like doing okay revenue wise. So we're like, well, let's pay our staff more money, because then they'll be more loyal, then they'll be more work harder and all these things. And as we've told the story, I think even on a rant before, they ended up just being more entitled, lazy. It didn't have the effect I wanted. So it was a total waste. And so it was like overspending for sure. But if you underspend on labor, you also have a problem. So it's like really understanding like the right amount. I guess that was a bit of a tangent over to the side.
Touches on that in the book as well, is people's compensation and making sure that they get paid, right? And I mean, read the book if you want more details on that. I'm not going to consume time up on this rant here, but like, for example, he found, hey, I'm spending this much money on this. Well, I can't afford to. So how do I solve this problem? Oh, maybe I get it secondhand. Maybe I build it myself. Maybe I don't actually need it in my business. And it starts dialing him in onto how to fix the economics.
Yeah. And maybe there are some things that, you know, you question, you go, nope, I do need to spend this. But it makes you scrutinize the line items, right?
Yeah.
And so are you saying that is he saying to put profit in as a line item so that you budget for it?
Not only put it in as a line item, but actually in real life, take it out of the bank account where the money comes in and put it into a separate bank account.
Right. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. So it's like you pay.
Please do not do this on spreadsheets. By all means, you cannot do this on spreadsheets or in your head. It has to be real life bank account.
Okay. I when you said that earlier, I don't know if I totally got that. It just hit me. I got it. That's very cool. Okay. Yeah. So then how do you see yourself relaying this to your franchisees? Like, how can franchisees potentially do this, considering the fact, acknowledging the fact that it can be tough enough to get franchisees to slow down and look at their numbers sometimes, the newer ones, like the less experienced ones that aren't quite there yet or whatever. Like, how do you envision this maybe being valuable to franchisees?
Well, I think, you know, a proper coach or support program not only talks about how to operate your business, but also how to read P&Ls and financials and all that sort of stuff. So I think embedding into the fabric of your training or ongoing training, just prudent weekly or monthly financial management is a great way to relay it to franchisees. It's not just like, hey, I trained you to have these bank accounts and do this weekly. Okay, cool. Let's now talk about how your customer service is. That should be part of it, you know?
Yeah, and if you could do it right from the start when you're onboarding a franchisee, I think that'd be the ideal situation. So going forward, is that what you're going to do? Control V with you.
You betcha. You betcha.
It's like, okay, let's make it a line item. Let's have you open a second bank account. I love that. Yeah, that's something that we definitely need to implement at AC Inc. Sounds like a good plan.
Yeah, and I can talk about this for a while, but I think we should wrap this up.
Okay, we'll just wrap it up because we would just go on for another like 20 minutes if we kept it going, right?
Right. Okay. 3, 2, 1, go.
Be
awesome.
Awesome.